All right, kids, here we are. Here we go. Good afternoon, may I be the first to say. Let's get the pleasantries out of the way, and we'll get the show started and lumbering under its own weight. It is Monday, July 24. Is that right? 2023? I think that's right. I know it's our episode 383 together, and I appreciate you spending a bit of time with us. We've got lots to do, and I know you have lots to do, and if you give us 5 minutes, we appreciate it. If you give us the full 3 hours, we appreciate it even more. It is a part of live and local conversation. News Talk Radio for the masses. Information-fueled and opinion-driven on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. And it's a pleasure to be here. Our telephone numbers are 615-737-9986. That's also your ability. I give those numbers often and as quickly as possible just to keep you on your toes. That is also your way to super text us. 615-737-9986. I can't tell you how happy I am to be talking to you on Super Talk 99.7 WTN, despite the fact that I just got done talking to you on Super Talk 99.7 WTN, but in a slightly different format. Hope you had a chance to catch us overnight filling in. You know, Dan Mandis isn't the only one that can fill in for Red Eye Radio, and I just proved it. Not saying I did as good a job as the one and only, but, held down the fort nonetheless. And thank you. Several of you from Nashville called me, and I appreciate that. That's good on you. We had lots to discuss from a national perspective, some of which we will readdress during our time together, our Monday together today. And then there are also some obvious Tennessee stories that we need to get to. Speaking of Nashville, Tennessee, a mayoral candidate, that race is soon to wrap up, at least in the beginning stages. The expectation is that there will be two candidates coming out this field of 9 or 10 or however many there are on the ballots, and those two candidates will run off to be the next mayor of the city of Nashville. It matters regardless of whether you're in Davidson County or not. Obviously, it matters. Nashville is important to the regional community. It's important to the state of Tennessee. Whether we like it or not, it is a fact. And more conservative leadership in the city of Nashville, I think, would be excellent for this community. Remains to be seen whether or not that will happen. Now, Heidi Campbell, I don't know if she describes herself as conservative, moderate, what. She will be on with us at 1 o'clock. Heidi's a nice enough person. We're going to disagree on any number of issues, but we'll find out what her priorities are should she be the next mayor of the largest city in the state of Tennessee. That's at 1 o'clock. Maybe a conversation with Representative Scott Sapicki, and I'm not nailed down on that quite yet. But maybe that is the... Maybe he'll be on with us. We're figuring that out as we speak. Your calls and your comments, your super text, always at 615-737-9986. So the one final thought, and I spent a good bit of time on this subject last week and last evening, or this morning, I should say. It is the fallout from the political left regarding the Jason Aldean song, Try That in a Small Town. And this really has little to do with Aldean's song and more to do with leftists and their relationship with the First Amendment. The political left, call them what you will, cancel culture, whatever, they've learned to act in the same fashion and with the same principles as radical Islam. Remember when we were introduced to radical Islam post 9/11? For most of us, that was the introduction to Al-Qaeda. I remember, I'm elephantine on these things. I remember like it was yesterday being introduced to the term Al-Qaeda by George W. Bush as he gave a speech to the American people post 9/11. I was in talk radio at the time and had little knowledge of what this organization was all about. But we learned quite quickly that these were radical individuals that, based on a religious radicalization, believed that you and me and any other non-believer had several choices to make regarding how you reacted to them. Those choices included conversion to their way of life, subjugation to their way of life, or destruction. Those were your three choices. Radical Islam, as represented by Al-Qaeda and ISIS after it, they do not believe in peaceful coexistence. You either shut up about your viewpoints and stay really, really quiet about it, you convert to their way of thinking, or you get destroyed. Those are your choices in their minds. Tell me how modern cancel culture is any different. Now, the method of destruction is slightly different, in as much as if radical Islam does not see conversion, subjugation, they kill you. It's a literal destruction. With cancel culture and the radical political left, it's a little bit different. I quoted it several times last week. It's one of my favorites, that liberals are groups of people. This is William F. Buckley, paraphrasing him, that liberals are groups of people that claim that they are open and tolerant to any and all other points of view, and then they are shocked, dismayed, and disgusted to discover that there are any, because they insulate themselves in their echo chambers. In the same fashion that radical Islam would go after something like this, the political left goes after something like this, and they mischaracterize and misrepresent it. There is nothing in this song. Listen to it at your leisure. It's number 1 on iTunes. One could make the argument that they've done more for this tune than Jason Aldean himself ever could, or supporters of his music ever could. But their relationship with the First Amendment is fascinating to me. They claim to believe in it, and they seem to believe in it up until the point that you have a strong disagreement about an issue with them, and then they decide you're an ist, and they'll select from the, there's a list. It's like we're at the donut shop or at the ice cream parlor, and there's their list of ists, the ist list. And here they go. What are you today? Are you a sexist? There's one. There's right off the big board. Chauvinist, xenophobe, and obviously down below there's the biggie, racist. So expecting law and order has now become a racist concept to political liberals. I want to say that again. Let's make sure that we understand what this subject is all about. Believing in law and order and announcing that you in your hometown will stand up for law and order and the standards of your community, proclaiming that you believe in concepts like the Second Amendment to the Constitution and your right to self-defense in the face of anarchy and riots, property destruction, and actual murder. If you speak back to that, if you say, no, you're not getting away with that around here, and you better not try it, you're a racist. Congratulations. I know that we discuss very important issues, and I get my rant pants on more than most. I promise you, sometimes when you feel like I've crossed the line, and I get a little too crazy on some of these issues, I promise you that I'm aware of it, and simultaneously, it is just due to my passion in this country, my passion for this country. And I am most passionate with regard to the individual liberties and freedoms that the political left wants to take away from you and centralize through rules on the part of the federal government. And I think this plays out a lot of different ways. And in the culture of America, it plays out this way. The left has decided that if you present a threat to them in any form or fashion with regard to your mindset, your thought process, they're going to figure out a way to view that information through the lens of racism or sexism or chauvinism or xenophobia. They destroy you by labeling you, unfairly, of course. And then they don't have to make the argument in their minds. If you're an ist, if they pick from the list of ist and label you as such, they feel like the argument's over. And in doing so, they deal with no semblance of reality. There's no realistic argument against this song. Jason Aldean is not making up, or the writers of the song, they did not make up the fact that in 2020, riots went down all across the United States of America and had precious little to do with the unfortunate death, the tragic death of a man by the name of George Floyd. Now, I'm not relitigating that because obviously the police officer was wrong in that case. And I say obviously because the vast majority of us recognize that you have to be better than that in that circumstance and situation. Now, I understand the debate about the amount of drugs in George Floyd's body and the fact that he was a criminal prior to his unfortunate death. But being a criminal doesn't necessarily carry a death sentence. All of that to say, many across the United States of America utilized that to their own advantage through rioting. Jason Aldean's merely commenting on that through his song. And it is most appropriate nowadays considering the amount of degradation we've seen in our American cities. Nashville's pretty lucky, although we've seen it around here. I mean, I've noticed the homelessness. I see the crime ticker. We see these things inching up. But if you want to talk about hellscapes, go to downtown Portland and see how they've recovered in the last 3 years. Go to San Francisco and count the number of human poops you see on the street as you walk down the sidewalk. Just count the poops. Pooping on the sidewalk in San Francisco is a human right, according to the leaders of San Francisco. Go to Detroit and count the number of empty buildings and empty houses and abandoned lots in Detroit. And then compare that to the number of poops in San Francisco and see who has more. Go to Baltimore and tour the areas where the Baltimore mayor, what was her name, Shirley Franklin? The Baltimore mayor said, we just need to give the rioters a little room to destroy. See how that worked out for private business. Go to Ferguson, Missouri and see how it's bounced back. That's not even a big town. Go to St. Louis. Every one of these towns run by Democrats. Every single one of them. Our major cities are going to hell in a handbasket because of loosey-goosey prosecutorial rules, DAs that refuse to prosecute crimes. And we know it. In the meantime, me pointing it out, instead of someone recognizing the truth in that statement, the political left would suggest to you that I'm only pointing that out because I am racist. And I'm not going to stand for it. In the meantime, Sloppy Joe had a hell of a week last week. What with the whistleblower testimony, everything we thought we knew was true is true. Everything we thought we knew was true is true. And it is up to me and to you to make sure that this story doesn't die. And I'm going to talk about what I mean by that over the course of the day today. It is up to us. As I've long said, and I reiterated it last night for those listening, I love the medium in which I serve. What I hope to do is serve the people of the community. And I love this medium. It is the most interactive thing going. I understand social media is a big deal. Are we calling it X now? I mean, is that what we're doing? Okay, more on that later. But at our best, we reach 20%. Now, it's a rotating 20%, one could argue. And so maybe by extension, it gets up to 25%, a quarter of the population. That's not bad, but it's still not good enough. The mainstream media, the CBS, NBC, ABC, Alphabet Soup Networks, MSNBC, hashtag never CNN, anything not Newsmax or Fox News, and Fox News is bad on occasion. They've decided that they're going to select the stories that they will cover or not cover based on the partisan nature of the story and the narrative that they want to present. That has nothing to do with truth. And we have to get to the truth of the story, and we have to get the truth to the American people, which is something that I'm going to dedicate myself to do on a daily basis, especially when it comes to Joe Biden and his crime family. And that's what they are. That's what they are. Everything we thought was true is true. The bribery, the payoffs, multiple foreign countries that don't like us very much. It's all true. In the meantime, I've decided, and I've long thought this, that even above and beyond what the political left is willing to do to win power and control over the American people, centralize government, and turn us into a socialist state, they pale in comparison to the danger presented by the mainstream media. The mainstream media has decided, the Washington Post, New York Times, and all of those other networks I just mentioned, they've decided that they are willing to lie to you because they think they're better than you. And they will lie to you to get their way. A fourth estate media establishment that is willing to lie to you for the purposes of advancing one political party's agenda is no longer an honest or good actor with regard to freedom of speech, expression, or freedom of the press. And I don't know what to do to get it back, except to beg of you not to watch this garbage. Give us a look on the super text line, 615-737-9986. I just saw a super text, and I have no idea what it means. By the way, before we get out of the first segment and head to a brief commercial advertisement timeout, look who's back. I told you he would come back. Ladies and gentlemen, behind the glass, making sure that everything that comes out of our speaker sounds as good as humanly possible. As much as we loved Mason, we so missed Headless Bel Kaeh, everybody. Yay! What's going on, man? How are you? You good? You forget how to use that microphone button?
Yeah, contrary to popular request, I was not fired.
Well, that shows how much pull I got around here, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Yesterday, when I was flying back from Dallas, I'm in the airport, and I'm walking up to my gate, and all of a sudden I hear, Bel! And I'm like, who the hell? And I turn around, and it's Pamela.
Oh, Pamela Furr?
She was flying back from Vegas.
Reba? Yes.
She was flying back from Vegas. She'd been out there doing some stuff with Americans for Prosperity.
How about that? Wait, you were in Dallas?
Yeah.
You saw each other in the Dallas airport?
Yeah.
Huh. You know, it is a small world after all.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they tell me. You have fun?
Oh, I had a great time, but I'm still hungover.
Dallas is like it's your second home.
Yeah, kind of.
You got friends out there. You got folks out there.
Yeah.
You look like you had a good time.
Yeah, I'm still hurting a little bit.
Yeah, well, you know what? You got to let your considerable hair down every once in a while. Despite the fact that no one can see it on Super Talk TV, Bel Kaeh does have.
It's dyed a nice auburn shade of red.
You know, we're talking about your car. I noticed this, and I asked myself a question. In my mind, I'm like, should I bring this up or not? And I decided not to. I don't know why I decided not to, but I decided not to.
Probably because we've had the discussion.
When did you start coloring your hair?
When I was 17.
You go jet black?
Yeah.
Because you wanted to be that guy?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody knows that guy.
Yeah.
Do you put like egg whites in it too and stick it straight up in a mohawk?
No, never did stuff like that.
Because that's silly.
No, honestly.
I'm sorry, it's me.
Honestly, the reason I didn't do it, too much work.
Oh man, I knew Keenan Reese was the guy that did it in our high school. The big old tall thing, and it, like Patriot Punk, who listened regular P1 listener to the show, he does it with regularity, and I'm like, what? And he puts JB in his head.
It's right a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. I don't know. I'm not putting that time.
I mean, with dyeing your hair, it's one time every 4 months.
Well, good to have you back.
Thank you.
Thank you for being back there. Give him a call and say hello to Bel Kaeh. 615-737-9986. You know the deal, right? I can't see them, so we have to communicate in some other fashion about...
Oh, is it still broken?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
It's lightning destroyed the phone set in here, so we'll figure that out. We'll get this thing going. We'll take your comments on Jason Aldean, the political left. We'll also talk a little of an update on a Hoover, Alabama story that I've been covering. I know that I have a connection to this story because I lived in Birmingham, Alabama for about 20 years, just outside of Hoover, but it's an absolute head scratcher. Your calls as well coming up, plus Heidi Campbell in the 1 o'clock hour. It's the Murphy Show on Super Talk. Mark at the Safe House wants you to know that you need to protect your loved ones. You need to protect the valuables that protect your loved ones. And the only thing you do in order to do that is go to the Safe House and buy yourself a fancy safe that doesn't have to cost you an arm and a leg. It's Matt Murphy for the Safe House. I've been talking about Mark for a long time. Love the way he does business. And it's as simple as this. He doesn't believe that you should have to order a safe and wait for weeks or months to get it. He doesn't have just 3 safes in the corner where he does a bunch of other stuff and couldn't find the combination with a compass and a flashlight. His individuals that deliver your safes, they know what they're doing. They're professionals. They are working for Mark at the Safe House. They're not contract people. They're not crackheads. You want a professional to deliver your safe. You want good quality safes at the lowest price possible, and you get every bit of that at Nashville Safe House. Go to NashvilleSafeHouse.com for more information. That's NashvilleSafeHouse.com. Or stop by on 4th Avenue South and see the incredible rebates still available from Browning and other groups at Nashville Safe House. It's NashvilleSafeHouse.com, 4th Avenue South in Nashville. What a fabulous event we had Friday afternoon at the Glock store. I loved seeing each of you that walked by and said hello, came in specially to see us as we broadcast live from the Glock store. 35,000 square feet. Now you know if you entered the Glock store for the first time, I think you know the difference as soon as you walk through the doors. I mean, the selection of long guns, short guns, unparalleled in Nashville. The 4 dedicated tactical shooting rooms, so important to understanding how to use your new gun or your new-to-you gun in a real-world setting, in a real-world scenario. We don't live in lanes. We live in homes, and that's what they're able to replicate in the 4 separate tactical shooting rooms. Plus, the Shoot 270 room is just enormous, and it provides incredible opportunities for training. Huge selection of firearms, accessories, ammo, performance parts, and so much more. Plus, they're darn good people at the Glock store and helpful employees. You'll never find a better, more helpful set of employees than at McGill's world-famous Glock store. Go to GlockStore.com or Shoot270.com for additional information. Stop by, say hello, and tell them I sent you to the world-famous Glock store. John wants to know if I've had any Red Bull today. I have not. I did caffeinate up prior to on air, but I did not do so with Red Bull. I actually, you know what I had last night while I was on Red Eye Radio? I had another one of those primes. I saw one of those primes.
Those jitter inducer?
Yeah, the jittery primes. They will give you the jumps. I'll tell you that. They'll get the hair on the back of your neck standing up.
So have you adjusted your body clock enough over the last 18 months that being up at that hour is difficult?
In the middle of the night?
Well, I mean, you were used to being up early, but you were able to go to bed earlier too.
You know what I couldn't do, and it is a tale as old as time when you need to go to bed at an off time because you've got to do something. Typically, the something is a special something, and you're
one-off.
you anticipate that, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's a part of not being able to go to sleep.
Yeah.
So I was excited about getting an opportunity to do Red Eye Radio. I've done it a few times, but not in a while. I guess the last time I tried to do Red Eye Radio was over Christmas when the ice storm was here, and I got stuck on I-40 for about 3.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So if there were no Dan Mandis, I don't know that I would have been invited back because I left the house at 9:30 that Christmas Eve night to come do Red Eye Radio. It normally takes me 20 minutes to drive from Mount Juliet to downtown on the butt end of Music Row. We stopped right at Spence, I guess it was Spence Lane, right before the 440 I-40 split going into town. And we just stopped, and there was an accident due to icy conditions kind of going up that hill, and we were there for 3 hours. So I call Mandis. I sit and I said, "What?" It was over 3 hours because I got there about 10:15, and I did not get out of there until 1:45, so whatever time that is. Anyway, call Mandis, and he had to do the first half of the show for me. So
Saved your butt.
he did save my butt. It's true. But great time, but, yeah, highly anticipatory. So no sleep yesterday. You caffeinate up for the night. I did get a little sleep this morning. So there you go. And missed a bunch of calls as a result. Matt, you claim to be from Georgia, Alabama, but you talk fast like you're from Chicago. Slow down. We don't think that fast. I'm sorry. I should slow down a little bit. I think fast, and therefore I talk fast, and I've got a lot of caffeine coursing through my veins, which is probably exacerbating the issue. I'm trying to slow down for you. 3036 says, I can't stand the voice of the dude on Alice's commercial. He's trying to sound so sultry. Wrong circumstance for that, in my opinion. I don't know what that means. I've heard Alice on her commercial. I thought that was Alice on the commercial saying, hey, I'm the only one that has promised not to raise your property taxes, which is the best way to get to affordable housing, which is true.
There's a guy on there, too.
Is there?
Yeah.
Well, there you go. I haven't heard him. All right, so Joe Biden is getting some interesting instruction from leftists in university settings across the country regarding what he can and cannot do with his authority as the CEO of the executive branch of government. To the point that he's being advised that he should just and can just ignore the Supreme Court. Just ignore them when it suits him. We'll talk about that in just a moment. It is 12:32, and you're dialed into the Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. The time is almost here. We're very excited about the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix coming in a couple of weeks. It's not this weekend, but next weekend, and it's going to be big, baby. August 4th through the 6th. Have you gotten your 3-day package of tickets yet? Premium hospitality is still available for this one-of-a-kind event. Plus, you can get single-day tickets. A lot of folks who maybe are out of pocket on a Friday or don't have the opportunity to go on Saturday but still want to see the big race on Sunday, they're doing that, and those are extremely popular at the website that I'm about to give you. The Big Machine Music City Grand Prix is everything you want and more. Racing, food, music, downtown Nashville, showing off the best of Nashville with the best of open-wheel racing, the NTT IndyCar Series, and a fan favorite returns, the high-flying stadium super trucks. Tons and tons of racing, all capped off with that Sunday event. If you've never experienced, you've got to go. I'll be there for the first time this year, And I've been saying for a while now, just I'll be the guy in the hat. Come find me and say hello. It's the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix. Get amped at MusicCityGP.com. That's MusicCityGP.com.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. Have you ever thought about why we invest in the stock market? Well, you often hear because we want to protect ourselves from inflation. Well, what is inflation? It's prices going up. Who's raising prices? Companies. What do you own when you own stocks? You own the companies raising prices, so it helps protect us from that. The other thing is this. Think about the most successful people you know. They're typically business owners. And you get to be a business owner when you invest in the stock market. Now, if we think about the stock market, a lot of people worry about, well, what if the stock market drops and it never comes back? Well, this is another thing that I like to explain to people. If the stock market goes down and it never comes back, what does that mean? That means that earnings went down and they never came back up again. So earnings went down. If earnings go down, what else goes down? Taxes go down. If taxes go away, what else goes away? The government goes away. If the government goes away, the FDIC goes away. So think about it. Everything is built on the stock market. That's why I don't ever worry about the stock market going down. Everybody has the same goal in mind when stocks go down. Get it to come back up because we got to get earnings to come back up. Now, you have two things at your control to get earnings to come back up. One is sales. We can change what we're selling or sell more of whatever we have if we can. And if we can't do that, we can reduce our expenses. And that's exactly what companies do. You'll notice that they lay off people when things get bad, and hence that is why the stock market has recovered from every downturn throughout all of history. Now, if you want to learn more about our approach to investing in financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call or call 615-851-1950.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN, Matt Murphy and you. So Joe Biden, I mean, he had the horrible, awful week, right? Sloppy Joe's week last week was no good. You have two credible IRS whistleblowers declaring that, yes, in fact, the Department of Justice did affect the outcome of the Hunter Biden investigation to the point that it would have been a felony prosecution had it not been the name Biden, and that Merrick Garland put his thumb on the scale. Despite what they want to tell you about this, it's pretty obvious what went down, especially considering the whistleblower testimony last week. In the meantime, Joe Biden's had a lot of slapdowns from the United States Supreme Court. In a moment, I know that this will sound like it's someone making something up from a script out of a movie. But I'm not kidding when I tell you that there are people that are so-called well-respected individuals in the legal community that are now suggesting that Joe Biden, when the Supreme Court issues a ruling that he doesn't like, he should just ignore it. Do you understand what America would be like if that were the case? The word dictatorship comes to mind. All right, is John still there? I can't argue. Let's get to John. John will be first up on this Monday edition of the Matt Murphy Show. John, how are you? Hope you're well.
I'm good, buddy. How you doing?
I'm well. Thank you for calling.
Hey, listen, I've been thinking so much about the things that are going on in society, and you broached many of them this morning. When I was in high school in the civics class, and that was probably 50 years ago, we broached a subject called social Darwinism. And I argued with my teacher the fact that no, people would always take care of one another. And if something were to happen, that an accident, someone would stop, they would help, they would get involved. And his argument with social Darwinism was that we would become so self-absorbed, cowardly, and afraid of everything that we would not help anyone. Now, if someone does step up, like the Marine that you spoke of on the subway, they're demonized, they're prosecuted. Everyone's taking photographs now of a situation as opposed to jumping in and helping. And
I mean, and conversely, I don't mean to interrupt you here, John, but conversely, and it all depends on which side of the issue you're on or how you are characterized or seen by political leftists in the United States. If you're one of them, you can do anything to accomplish your goals. You can burn private property to the ground. You can beat the hell out of people. If you are a leftist in Kenosha, Wisconsin, you can literally attempt to kill someone, Kyle Rittenhouse I'm thinking about, and they'll defend you. They'll defend the activity. They'll defend the action. But if you try to stand up for yourself, Daniel Penny in New York is a good example. Obviously, Jason Aldean just wrote a song, or didn't write it, but he performs a song in which he's saying, hey, I wouldn't come around here with all of that lawlessness and garbage, and he's being attacked as a result of it. It's amazing.
Well, that was one of the things that happened in 2020 because there was they were having a prayer meeting, which really turned out to be a Trump bashing thing here in Franklin. And I went down the street to sit in with the kids at one of the stores, but they had closed that store because there was word that Antifa was coming. I went down. They were definitely there. And there was probably about 60 of us. And there was a couple of undercover cops there as well. And I thought, we're here defending our town. And if these guys come in, I mean, first of all, I'm 70 years old. Come on, how much damage could I do? But it was an idea of the small town. We're not putting up with this nonsense. And if we all go to jail, at least we picked a hill to die on. And I don't think too many people are picking the hill to die on now because, man, we've been neutered. We really have.
No question about it, and it's a frustration. I would agree with you completely, John. John, I can currently anything else on your end because Bel Kaeh left his post, and I have no ability to hang up on you. So you can virtually say anything you want. We have to sit here and talk because I guess Bel forgot that my phone system doesn't work in the control room, and he just walked out of the control area there. So what do you want? Anything else you want to talk about there, John?
Yeah. The thing is that, you were talking, I was just listening to the programming earlier, and the guy was talking about people stealing. They can walk in, they can take so much, no one can stop them, etc. Well, the thing that I get scared about, and again, I think like that, but it scares me, and that's the fact that if this continues, people continue to get away with these kinds of things, they're not going to have to worry about the cops. I think that there's going to be a rise in people that are vigilantes, and I hate to see it, but man, they're talking us into it. They really are, and I think that at that point, the cops might become the criminal's best friend, and that's just talking. I'm not.
Well, the morale or lack thereof of the police departments around the country is well documented. It's a sad state of affairs, but we do need to offer not just community support, but leadership support of those police. Now, Bel's back. So, Bel, I can't hang up on callers, and yeah, that's okay. You have to do that. John, thank you for the call, and thank you for the commentary. I appreciate you very much. I think a lot more is being made, and I, for the life of me, don't understand why. A lot more is being made of this Jason Aldean song than needs to be made. It was released in May. The video came out last week, of course, freaked people out. It is a reach beyond comprehension to suggest, as has been suggested, that the site selection for the video was made. I mean, there are political leftists who have suggested that the people in Jason Aldean's inner circle selected the Murray County Courthouse specifically because there was a lynching there in 1927. It is beyond reprehensible, this suggestion. But they make it nonetheless because nobody calls them out and nobody slaps them down. Nobody's willing to say, you know what? This is wrong. It's reprehensible, and it must be stopped. I mean, the only other outcome that I can think of that would be reasonable for those that would suggest this type of thing is to blow up the Murray County Courthouse. Is that what these folks are suggesting? Are they also suggesting that others who have given performances there, others who have utilized that courthouse as an iconic setting for film production, television production, or video production, that those individuals should have had? I mean, are we to be expected to research the intimate history of every location in the United States of America so as to avoid any connective tissue thrown at us by political leftists so that they can bludgeon us with this list of ists society that they've created? Because that's what that's all about. Hey, guys, the song doesn't mention race whatsoever. The song doesn't mention violence whatsoever. The song does talk about defending yourself and defending your rights and not bringing lawlessness to a small town in America. So we don't really have a way to jump at Jason Aldean. Oh, wait, he filmed at the Murray County Courthouse. Let's do some research on that. I mean, that's what they did. And they came up with this awful evil that occurred in 1927. The practice of lynching was obviously awful. It was obviously evil. It was lawless in and of itself. And it would not and should not be tolerated in any form or fashion or discussion. We all recognize the tragedy that our two-tier justice system created for African Americans in the 1920s and 1930s and 1940s and 1950s. There's no doubt about that. But one does not have anything to do with the other. Just doesn't. Bel, do I have a call? Okay. I thought I did. My bad. You'll tell me. You'll tell me, friend. So Joe Biden receives advice this week. Last week it actually was, from two separate individuals, Harvard law professor Mark Tushnet and San Francisco State University political scientist Aaron Belkin, penned what they called an open letter to the Biden administration on, quote, popular constitutionalism. This open letter was in response to what Biden said about the Supreme Court rulings over the last several weeks, saying that this was not a, quote, normal court. Following several high-profile cases lost by the Biden administration, loan forgiveness being one of them, religious liberties and free speech being another. In the open letter to the Biden administration, Mark Tushnet and political scientist Aaron Belkin, they now say the quiet part out loud. We urge President Biden to restrain MAGA justices immediately by announcing that if and when they issue rulings that are based on gravely mistaken interpretations of the Constitution that undermine our most fundamental commitments, the administration will be guided by its own constitutional interpretations. The letter continues. We have worked diligently over the past 5 years to advocate Supreme Court expansion as a necessary strategy for, quote, restoring democracy, whatever that means. Wait a minute. We don't have democracy in the United States of America as defined by them? How did Joe Biden get elected if that's the case? But I digress. Although we continue to support expansion of the courts, the threat of MAGA justices they pose is so extreme that reforms that do not require constitutional approval are needed at this time. And advocates and experts should encourage President Biden to take immediate action to limit the damage. They went on to cite a solution that they referred to as popular constitutionalism and said, quote, the courts do not exercise exclusive authority over constitutional meaning. They then theorized that Joe Biden could explain how the Supreme Court's decisions are, quote, egregiously wrong and offer an alternative constitutional interpretation, particularly if the ruling poses a grave threat. Here's what they said. In this particular historical moment, MAGA justices pose a grave threat to our most fundamental commitments because they rule consistently to undermine democracy and curtail fundamental rights, and because many of their rulings are based on misleading and untrue claims. What these two supposedly learned individuals are suggesting openly is that we turn to dictatorship in America, because that's what that would be. That would be the ultimate authoritarianism. That if an equal branch of government, the Supreme Court, the body that is to ultimately decide the constitutionality of laws passed by Congress and signed by the executive branch, or the constitutionality of actions on the part of the executive branch. These two law professors believe that it is perfectly permissible for the President of the United States to ignore their rulings. In other words, when John Roberts in 2012 cast the deciding vote confirming that Obamacare was legal, despite the fact that they literally had to change language in the law to do so, you'll remember, I certainly do, that, Congress is the only body that is allowed to levy taxes, and they had to change language, turning taxes into fines in order to make constitutionality even plausible. But the suggestion by these two knuckleheads, because what's good for the goose is good for the gander, is that we should just ignore. Now, Obama was president at the time. He never would have done this, but were there a Republican president, just ignore it. Andrew Jackson, famously, 7th president of the United States, famously told the Supreme Court that they can issue all the rulings they want and they can get their army to go and back them up and enforce them, too. Now, he never made good on that threat, but the idea is, sure, you can talk about the constitutionality of things all you want, but I'm the guy with the power because I'm the guy with the army. Thankfully, that was all hat, no cattle. It was all talk. Because that would have been a constitutional crisis, as would this. Once again, saying the quiet part out loud. Just ignore them, they say. The Constitution doesn't really mean anything, they say. Constitutional scholar Jonathan Turley has responded to this ridiculous assertion that this is at all feasible. I'll tell you what he had to say in just a moment. Your telephone calls as well. Plus, just after 1 o'clock, Senator Heidi Campbell will join us. She's running for mayor of Nashville. We are excited to talk to her about her priorities in a Campbell administration. That's coming up in the 1 o'clock hour on The Murphy Show. It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Brink Fiddler and Defend Systems is there for you should you decide that you need him. And if you are a business owner, if you're a decision maker within your business, maybe you run a school or are a decision maker, an elder in a church, let's talk about these public spaces. Because nowadays in 2023, we've not seen a dangerously developing world like this in some time. And it is just a fact that you have to recognize that hope is not a plan. Now, the odds are of a workplace violence situation occurring at your business or your school or your church, they're very, very low. Very, very low. And no one wants to put any sort of undue fear into you. However, everyone that goes through one of these types of things, you hear it all the time. We never thought that it would happen here. With Defense Systems, they walk through active shooter response training, workplace violence prevention, site surveys, and threat assessment, all customized to your facility. They work with your team to develop emergency and intruder action plans and rapid response medical training. It's all about getting trained in the unlikely event that something should happen to you. Hope is not a plan. It's time to get trained. With Defense Systems, call Brink and his team today at 615-236-6484, 236-6484, defensesystems.com, defensesystems.com. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. We will circle back to this story involving Jonathan Turley. His response to two law professors, well, I guess one of them is a political scientist, the other is a Harvard law professor, in their assertion that it is permissible that Joe Biden simply ignore the United States Supreme Court. I think there's a better long-term solution to that. I mean, that's just me talking. I'm no constitutional law professor, but we'll circle back to that. We'll also get, Bel Kaeh, most don't know this. He was out last week. The reason he was out last week, he was building up his anticipation of the Barbie movie, so he'll give us his full review coming up in hour number 3 of the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk. I think I have that about right. But coming up next, Senator Heidi Campbell is in studio with us. We'll talk about her run for mayor. That's right after this on the Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. Have you ever thought about why we invest in the stock market? Well, you often hear because we want to protect ourselves from inflation. Well, what is inflation? It's prices going up. Who's raising prices? Companies. What do you own when you own stocks? You own the companies raising prices, so it helps protect us from that. The other thing is this. Think about the most successful people you know. They're typically business owners. And you get to be a business owner when you invest in the stock market. Now, if we think about the stock market, a lot of people worry about, well, what if the stock market drops and it never comes back? Well, this is another thing that I like to explain to people. If the stock market goes down and it never comes back, what does that mean? That means that earnings went down and they never came back up again. So earnings went down. If earnings go down, what else goes down? Taxes go down. If taxes go away, what else goes away? The government goes away. If the government goes away, the FDIC goes away. So think about it. Everything is built on the stock market. That's why I don't ever worry about the stock market going down. Everybody has the same goal in mind when stocks go down. Get it to come back up because we got to get earnings to come back up. Now, you have two things at your control to get earnings to come back up. One is sales. We can change what we're selling or sell more of whatever we have if we can. And if we can't do that, we can reduce our expenses. And that's exactly what companies do. You'll notice that they lay off people when things get bad, and hence that is why the stock market has recovered from every downturn throughout all of history. Now, if you want to learn more about our approach to investing in financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call or call 615-851-1950.
Friends, let's talk about your mobile service. If you want an alternative to the big three that still provides the same incredible, wonderful coverage, I have a suggestion for you. It's Patriot Mobile. They're America's only Christian conservative wireless provider. They offer dependable nationwide coverage on all three major networks. You get all of the great service in your area without any of the woke politics. It's 100% U.S. customer-based. That's important to me because you talk to somebody right here in the States, and they make switching incredibly easy. You keep your phone number. Go to patriotmobile.com to find out more. By the way, free activation with the offer code Murphy, M-U-R-P-H-Y. Offer code Murphy when you dial 878-PATRIOT. That's 878-PATRIOT. You can ask about their coverage guarantees while you're there. Same great and dependable service, and take a stand for those values. Make the switch today. patriotmobile.com. That's patriotmobile.com. All right, here we go. It is Matt Murphy and the Matt Murphy Show. Hour number 2 starts right now. Thank you for being with us 4 minutes after the hour. I spent a good part of my overnight and morning discussing national political issues. That would be on Red Eye Radio, and it was absolute joy to get to speak to other parts of the country, but I was unable to talk about the things that I love talking about most. And I have, over the year and a half plus that I've been here, tried to dig my heels into and dig my feet into the local issues that matter to people in the metro region and in Nashville, Tennessee. And toward that end, I've made a commitment to bringing you the candidates that are vying to become the next mayor of the city, to talk to them about their priorities, their wants, their likes, their dislikes. I mean, it's like we're putting a relationship together here. We're going out on a date, and we're seeing if we like one another. And with that in mind, we welcome back to the show Senator Heidi Campbell, who is also running for mayor of the city of Nashville. Heidi, hello.
Hey there. Thanks so much for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you back. You doing well?
Doing great. Thanks.
How's the campaign going?
You know, it's definitely been a slog, but in a good way. I mean, it's been energizing. We have met so many people. I think there have been, 5 million forums. So I think that's the actual number.
Right. I don't think you're exaggerating at all. Let's dive into it. What are the people telling? What do you get more than anything when you get out in the street and you talk to the folks and you knock on doors and you go to forums? What are people telling you?
I grew up in this town, and they're telling me the same thing I felt that made me get into this race, which is that Nashville feels unaffordable. It feels unlivable. People who are from here feel like they're getting pushed out, and people who came here to, make a life for themselves feel like it's getting harder and harder to live here.
So affordable housing, is a catchphrase that I hear a lot. What does it mean to you?
It's a very good question because we just use that phrase.
Yeah, we need affordable housing. That's what everybody says.
It's a whole range. You're talking about like from unhoused people all the way to people who can't buy their starter home. But we have a whole range of people in that realm. By some estimates, we have 20,000 people in the city who are experiencing some kind of housing insecurity. So it's an emergency. And I think people across the political spectrum agree that we have to do something about that. And you'll find that the approach amongst most of the candidates actually is similar. This race is not about the issues. This race is about temperament, personality, character, and experience.
So you think that's interesting. So you believe that most of the candidates in the race identify the same issues that Nashville faces. You guys are kind of in agreement there?
We had this joke at one point that we could actually get up and give each other's, speeches because, we are kind of saying the same thing. There are a few differences. I definitely have some differences on transit. But when it comes to affordable housing, that main issue, we're all saying we need a comprehensive survey of our public lands. We need to look at public-private partnerships. We need to, make sure that we're continuing to fund the Barnes Fund. And we need to, streamline our permitting process because it's ridiculous.
I hear a good bit about the Barnes Fund, and I don't know that I understand it in a way that I could intelligently talk about it. But if everyone talks about committing to it, but I guess I would ask, if it's so good, then why are we in this bad situation?
Because it's not enough. I mean, it's a supply-demand issue.
What does it do? Can you explain it to me?
The Barnes Fund is a fund that's just been aggregated from people contributing to actually go towards affordable housing, and they're building, 100 or so units every year, but it's not enough. I mean, we have a need for thousands of affordable housing units right now, and so, I mean, it's definitely important that we continue to support it. Reverend Barnes was somebody who everybody really respected in this community. He really cared deeply about people, and he set that up. Actually knew him and his daughter very well, but he set that up because he saw that there was going to be an increasing issue with affordable housing.
So it begs the question then, the current Mayor Cooper, and this was before my time, so I don't pretend to understand the intricacies of this, but he apparently made some commitments regarding taxation, and some people believe like he violated those commitments. He raised property taxes in the midst of the pandemic. Isn't that, I mean, an obvious way that he exacerbated the problem of unaffordability in the city of Nashville by raising property taxes? I mean, and what is your position on taxation down the road?
Of course, raising taxes makes affordability a huge issue, and I don't think that we should look at raising taxes at all. As a matter of fact, I am somebody who puts my money where my mouth is. When I became the mayor of Oak Hill, I actually got rid of my own salary and reduced our costs and doubled our reserves when our greatest source of revenue was going away. I believe that you can find the answers through efficiency and getting rid of all, the extra bureaucratic stuff that we're doing. And a big part of that, by the way, is in our permitting process.
I mean, you understand the differences and the similarities between the state government and how the state runs its affairs versus city. You live in Nashville. You understand how that's going, and you're a state senator, obviously. The state seems to have the money that it needs. The city is running a deficit. Is that a problem, or is that just a part of being the biggest city in the state of Tennessee? And if it is an issue that needs to be addressed by the next mayor, how would you address it?
Well, a couple things. One is that's a little bit disinformation because we've actually increased our bond rating to AA+. So we're very much coming back from a bad financial position. Also, we generate more than half the revenue for the state. And so a big part of that is because the state is actually taking that revenue and not giving it back to Nashville. So,
well, my question is more about spending and less about
right.
Generating revenue. Does Nashville have an overspending problem, or are you comfortable with the way that they're spending their money?
I think Nashville has an inefficiency problem, and yes, I guess you would have to say that means it's an overspending problem to some degree. There are a lot of ways that we can make our city so much more efficient, and I know that I have the experience to make that happen.
I'm just curious, Heidi. You're, and this is less of a political question and just more of an observational one, right? I've noticed this balance that local political figures take with the tourists that come into town and the residents of the town. In other words, there's a recognition that the city of Nashville needs the tourists. I mean, but at the same time, I've noticed, especially in the mayor's race, a tendency to kind of lambast the tourist. Like, heck with these people. What are we giving them new stadiums for? We don't need. Well, I mean, have you noticed this? I mean, there's a balance. It's almost a teeter-totter of, yes, we want to be that it city where everybody wants to come and everybody wants to go to Broadway and everybody wants to spend some money at the Country Music Hall of Fame or wherever it might be, versus focusing on the needs of the citizens and prioritizing the citizens, obviously above the tourists.
Yeah, and those can't be mutually exclusive. And as somebody who actually is on the more right side of the spectrum, I know that you understand that it's absolutely important that we continue to have growth and we continue to support growth. And I was talking to somebody who said, it's what would New York City be without Times Square? I mean, they're not mutually exclusive necessarily, but what we do need to make sure that we're doing, because people haven't done this in a long time, is that we're supporting Nashvillians more than we're supporting the downtown tourism. And I think people have rightly identified a problem there because it seems like the focus from the mayor's office has been mostly on that downtown tourist growth. And it's an issue of balance. It has been politically expedient for people in this race to weaponize that and say, let's vilify all the tourists and the bachelorettes. Right. And I get that. But here's an interesting thing that we need to think about. I mean, we are going to be in big trouble if we don't have a good relationship with the state going forward, because guess what? They have more power than we do.
Right.
And if we have a mayor that has spent an entire race vilifying the state, then they are already game over when they come into the mayor's seat in terms of working with the state.
You bring up the partisan nature of that relationship. Did the RNC thing have to happen the way that it did?
I think that was just all sides of everything, just so unfortunate. And we need to just absolutely calm down the conversation. It was ridiculous. It shouldn't have happened. We should have not continued to fuel the divisiveness. And it's really, really hurt us.
I mean, I was brand new in the city, but I felt like that everyone involved in that, they were talking about one another and not to one another.
Right.
And it just led to a complete breakdown. And it became more politically partisan than it ever needed to be.
And the thing is that we just haven't had communication. I mean, I'm not pointing fingers at anybody in particular, but I'm the only mayor in this race, the only person who's been a mayor, and I served on the Greater Nashville Regional Council Mayor's Caucus. Those Republican mayors give zero craps about what's going on in the legislature. They just want to solve problems for their constituents. Mm-hmm. And those people have been ignored for a long time. I think that is a wonderful place for the mayor of Nashville to start working regionally and start, increasing communication so that we can actually get a better result for Nashville going forward, especially in terms of our relationship with the state.
So it's an interesting coming together of ideas when you talk to a libertarian and you begin talking to him about using public dollars to build private stadiums, right? So I get really itchy when we have this discussion. At the same time, I'm cognizant of that need to keep our facilities in line with what those tourism dollars would expect and to keep that monetary flow coming in. I also did enough research to recognize what a bad deal the 1990s deal was with regard to what is now known as Nissan Stadium. And there are some obvious positives that come out of this deal that's already been set in stone. The most positive aspect to me is the land that goes back to the city and the ability that the city has to utilize that land and better Nashville for its citizens. Give me your overview on the stadium deal.
So my job is not to litigate the stadium deal. My job is to make sure that I'm getting the best deal for Nashvillians going forward. And I say that not just to be political, not just to get out of answering the question. I say that because it is really easy in a campaign to complain. Complaining is the easiest thing you can do. They're bad and I'm going to change it. They're bad and I'm going to change it. We need adults who are actually saying, whatever situation I come in with, I'm going to make the best possible deal for Nashvillians going forward. And that's my promise. And that's exactly what you want in a mayor.
Well, I would agree that it seems to be easy fruit that you get on a campaign, and I'm not pointing fingers at any particular, but I notice it when I see these campaign commercials on television. I think, well, that's so easy because the people that got the stadium deal, that supported it, they have it and they know that, so it doesn't bother them when you say I hated the stadium deal. The people that didn't, it's a political answer to a real world situation. That if you say you hated the stadium deal, then the people that hated the stadium deal is going to go, yay, and the people that love the stadium deal goes, well, you lost that fight, so right. Whatever. It's an interesting psychological tactic, but it doesn't deal with the real world moving forward as to how do we best utilize the situation as it exists for the betterment of Nashville.
Well, and if you went through the whole thing saying I hate the stadium deal, you're also going to make, the people in the state mad and all kinds of other
right. people.
So in terms of being able to work with people going forward, which is super important, I mean, we ignore that to our peril. I think it might have been politically expedient, but it's not good for Nashville.
So you're elected the next mayor of Nashville. You inherit the certainly the most valuable property in the state of Tennessee, and maybe once once that moves forward, the most important piece of property in the Southeast right now in terms of development and utilization. Have you thought about what to do with that property?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, I think we need to make sure that that's a place for Nashvillians to enjoy. People do feel very detached from downtown Nashville, siloed, and parking for one. I think we need to actually give residents a discount parking rate, significantly. But on top of that, green space, multimodal connectivity, Nashville businesses should be the focus on, that whole new East Bank development. We need to also have some meaningful transit. We are so far behind for a city our size in transit. We're the number 2 most car-dependent city in the country. You know what number 1 is?
I'm going to guess Atlanta.
Memphis.
Memphis?
Tennessee is
Are you
representing.
kidding me?
I'm not.
I guess Atlanta has so many people. That's surprising.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about transit in just a second.
Yeah.
Heidi Campbell's with us. She's running for mayor. If you have any questions for Heidi, throw them out on the super text line, 615-737-9986, and I promise that I will vet and get to those questions momentarily. We'll talk transit in a moment on The Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. USS, you don't want to call them. You do not want to call USS. You know why? Because when you call USS, you've noticed some things about your home, and you don't want to think about them. You want to whistle past the graveyard. I know you do, right? If you notice the traditional stair step cracks that come in masonry joints, if you've noticed that you have some drywall issues, doors that are sticking, these are signs that there is something wrong, a possible foundation issue. And you don't want to believe that that's the case because that means you have to spend money to fix it. But friends, not dealing with it is far worse, and they've learned this over the years at USS. United Structural Systems is here for you for foundation repair, waterproofing, and concrete leveling. Any situation that you find within your home, go ahead and make the call that 25,000 plus satisfied customers have made since 1994. USS serves throughout Middle Tennessee, Southern Kentucky, Northern Alabama, and they want to serve you as well. Go ahead to the website at USSTN.com. That's USSTN.com, or give them a call. USS, serving Middle Tennessee, Southern Kentucky, and Northern Alabama with trustworthiness. And, I just tell you, they guarantee their best at USS. 615-488-7855. 488-7855. I think it's a fair answer on the stadium deal. I do. Because, it is kind of politically swishy, but I get it. It is what it is. Were you surprised that it passed?
No.
Yeah? Does he have a question about it, or does he just want to talk about it? Okay, if he has a question, I'll throw him on and let him ask the question, and then Heidi can respond to it. Okay, all right. I just don't want people come on in the monologue.
Yeah.
My big $122, almost $123, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. And I understand many of you don't live in Davidson County. You will not be voting. Many of you do live in Davidson County, and you either have or will be voting for the next mayor of Nashville. Either way, these conversations, in my opinion, are incredibly important because the city matters. It matters. I mean, it goes without saying that the city of Nashville matters to Mount Juliet. It matters to Franklin. It matters to Hendersonville, and it matters to all of those other communities in which you might live. And Heidi Campbell is with us. She's running for mayor, and she's shaking her head. I mean, obviously, you would agree with that. The city is very vital and important to the greater metropolitan region. Hold on just a second.
You're going to end up with a very different situation depending on who's mayor. So, yes, it matters a lot.
You mentioned transit before we left. Talk to me. What can we do? What can we do to get people out of there? I like my car.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I'm the guy that you have to convince.
I'm not telling you that you have to give up your car, but I will say this. In 10 years, you're going to be sitting in traffic for 60% longer than you are now. And I'm sure you're pretty sick of everybody's sick of sitting in traffic.
Sure.
So I have the only plan that's actually not just about buses. Sure, we have to continue to support our buses, but the fact of the matter is we got to look at bigger plans. And so I think we should look at a TDOT plan to move Radnor Yards, which is right by Hundred Oaks, to Wilson County. What that does is it creates a go-around for freight. CSX is sick of pushing their freight through Nashville, and it opens up all the train lines in Nashville so that we could actually use those for, rail, multimodal connectivity, buses. To try and get that kind of right-of-way is absolutely impossible right now in terms of how haphazardly Nashville.
Have you gotten so far as to develop? So you're talking about commuter trains.
Sure.
In Nashville.
Or you can use them for buses or multimodal connectivity. I'm just talking about complete routes that go all the way through the city. Everywhere you see a train line, we can be using that for transit. That's what I'm saying.
But it requires, describe this to me again, it requires rerouting the CSX
That's
traffic.
right. And they're sick of pushing their freight through here. TDOT did a study on this a few years ago. It is one-sixth the cost of the transit referendum we voted on in 2018. And we have more federal funds right now available than we've ever had for that kind of a thing. I sit on the Transportation Committee in the Senate. We just passed the largest transportation bill in the history of our state. I know that we could find funds to support that and not leave Nashville totally on the hook for all of it.
Do you think you could entice commuters that come into the city on a day-to-day basis to work here to utilize that sort of transit?
100%. I mean, the Nashville Star is just a singular line. And, transit, by definition, is connective. So the more you create transit connectivity, the more people will utilize it. We know they will.
So before I get away from it, we were talking about the Dunn Stadium deal, and there's another potential deal out there before the Metro Council. You and I were talking about it just before we came on air, and it's the potential to revitalize and renovate the Fairgrounds Speedway. It would require a revenue bond. This is my understanding of the situation, that it's basically a revenue bond, and that Bristol Motor Speedway runs the facility and agrees to pay the amount of money borrowed, but that money is borrowed on the good faith and credit of the city of Nashville, obviously. I don't know how much you've studied the deal. The Fair Park Board approved it, sent it on to the Metro Council. To me, and I know that I'm a fan, but I'm a big believer that if you allow these things to go by the way, you never get them back. You don't get things back like the Fairgrounds Speedway that's been in existence since 1904. And you hear different cities talking about the we wish we could have, saved this, that, or the other thing. Is this something that you as mayor of Nashville could support?
I want to tell you a lesson I learned. When I was the mayor of Oak Hill, I got a grant for a multimodal path to go down Franklin Pike. It was going to connect Nashville to Brentwood and also to Radnor Lake and Percy Warner Park. I was so excited. I got the grant. We had a task force. We applied for it. And all of a sudden, everybody in the community came out and they were furious about it. And I realized that I had made a huge mistake by not getting buy-in support from the community first, that you have to start with these things from the ground up, and you have to make sure that the community supports it. And right now, that deal is still in that phase. We do not know how much the community supports it. And so it really has to be vetted with the community.
I mean, do you not lean on, there was a referendum just like 10 years ago, right, that indicated over 70% of the people of Nashville supported racing at the Fairground Speedway. So it seems that at least the most recent referendum that we've seen was a strong vote in support of these types of things.
Yeah, but we need to make sure that this particular deal, in terms of the sound walls and the parking and the community and the people in that neighborhood and everything, we have to make sure that those people support it. And I don't think that deal has already been vetted completely.
So I'll just leave it at that. I mean, it feels like a non-answer.
Yeah.
Heidi, I mean, just to be honest with you, it feels like a non-commitment. With regard, I don't know what we don't know about the deal that we can't support or not support it at this stage. But I mean, your answer is your answer. I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but it seems to me what I have been told is that without an agreement for a management company like Bristol Motor Speedway to come in and manage the speedway and to reinvest within the speedway, that all of that will cease to exist in the next several years, and that John Ingram gets to turn it into a parking lot, which is what John Ingram wants to do with the Nashville Soccer Club. I'm not trying to pit you against John Ingram when I say that, but he's been pretty open about his displeasure with the possibility of the renovation of the speedway.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are a lot of people who have very, very strong opinions about that. And I think my job as a mayor is to catalyze communication and learn about people's opinions and also support the council in their efforts to represent the interests of their constituents the best way that they can.
I think we have a question from Ken. Is Ken still there? Ken had a question about parking within the city. I wanted to get him on. Instead of me asking his question, Ken can ask his question. Ken, you've got a question for Heidi Campbell, candidate for mayor, regarding parking in the downtown areas of the city. Go ahead, please.
Yes, thank you so much for taking my call here.
Sure.
I am a Sumner County resident, but I know that I speak for many musicians in Nashville. I am a professional musician, and it's becoming so hard to accept gigs when you know that you're going to have to park for a few hours and pay $50, $60. I played a gig down there on New Year's Eve, and I had to pay $72 for parking. Also, they've just passed an ordinance. If I'm correct, I could be wrong about this, but that you have a limit of 2 hours parking. I don't know any gigs, virtually any gigs, that are only 2 hours. By the time you have your instruments loaded, it's become so difficult to even accept something downtown because by the time you pay parking, you have virtually nothing for what you played for. Well, anyway, I think that one of the examples of a city I lived in did it the right way. They had a 4-block parameter around the downtown area where the parking was free for everyone. I don't know that this could ever happen in Nashville, but it would be great. I think it would be an economic boom. I just avoid it now. There's nothing I can do. I used to go to jam sessions down there that I won't go because I can't park my car at a reasonable rate.
Ken,
anyway,
I'm
your thoughts about that would be
and you keep listening. We're going to say goodbye to you on the phones, and you keep listening online. And Heidi, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a singer and a songwriter, and I was in a band, and I used to play downtown, and I know exactly how you feel. And that is why I think we need to look at some kind of a discount for Tennessee residents, possibly, specifically related to people who are working downtown. That could be a component of it. But we absolutely need to look at giving a break to people who are working downtown and, quite frankly, people who live here.
31 after the hour, Heidi Campbell, one more long segment with us as she is a candidate for mayor of the city of Nashville. We'll continue the discussion right after this on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. So we'll get into... Super Talk 99.7 WTN. You know, I don't think Heidi and I get along politically, but I like her personally. I can't help myself. Heidi Campbell's in with us. I don't know if that helps. I don't know that helps you, Heidi. I think that probably hurts you more than helps you, but, it is what it is. Matt Murphy and Senator Heidi Campbell. Heidi's running for mayor, talking about her priorities we rewinded that. Isn't it the 4th? Is that or the 3rd or something like that?
It's the 3rd. It's a Thursday, a week from Thursday.
Does it feel that way to you?
Yeah, it does. I mean, this is the final countdown for sure.
All right, let's talk about a big issue for parents in the city of Nashville and in Davidson County. Obviously, it's our school systems. Two big pieces to this. One is obviously education itself, and the other is public safety and school safety. Let's start with the education piece. We're not where we want to be. It's clear we're not where we want to be. I talk to Representative Scott Sapicki quite often about this issue of education and accountability. Are you pleased that we're moving in the right direction? These third grade scores show that we are with regard to reading. Is it not enough? And what can we do better in the city of Nashville?
Just like with the affordable housing question, the answer is not monolithic because there are some schools that are doing really well and other schools that aren't. So we actually need to, and this is where, I'm a little different from my colleagues because I don't think we need to spend money on it. I think we need to actually be efficient. And the thing that we should do is hire community school coordinators for those schools that are struggling the most. And that's somebody whose day job is to build support around that school. In my district, for example, we have a school called Glendale that's absolutely awesome. But guess what? The parents have hundreds of thousands of dollars that they put into the school every year. There are other schools in Nashville that aren't doing well at all, and we need to have somebody who is performing the job of making sure that they're building support from the community around those schools so we can have better outcomes. It is incredibly affordable, and we have really good data that shows us that this works well in places like Knoxville and H.G. Hill School here in Nashville. So I really think community school coordinators are the way to start to bridge that. As far as the third grade retention thing goes, that's a disaster.
What do you say?
That is just a dumpster fire. Holding back third graders has just so many bad effects.
What's worse? Graduating kids that can't read.
Right. Well, we need to make sure that we're actually addressing the issues in early childhood. Like we can
if a child is at the end of third grade and for whatever reason they have not developed the proficiency, doesn't it harm them more? I understand the stigma. But, isn't it a legitimate question for me to ask? Doesn't it harm them more to move them forward? They're going to fall further and further behind. Statistically,
the answer is not to cut off the lifeline and just completely, let us deal with the fact that we're going to have this huge, massive influx of third graders next year. The answer is to actually address it at the root and make sure that we're looking at early childhood education and reading proficiency earlier.
There is a thought process that has been presented by the aforementioned Mr. Sapicki that if we did address this a little bit earlier, that you could cut out some of the stigma involved in the potential of retention, even if you do it in the first grade. Do you think that would be less stigmatizing? And I think it would be, obviously, because there's less. As kids grow and they develop peer groups, I can understand how I'm not immune to the fact that it would be emotionally difficult for a kid to be retained and they lose their friendship groups. So maybe thinking about addressing this a little bit earlier.
Absolutely. And it's not necessarily just a all or nothing testing issue. We teach to the test too much. I talk to so many teachers that feel like they can't teach because they have to teach to the test all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Teachers, let them do their jobs. Let them actually teach and let's see what happens then.
Address the issue of school safety in the Metro Nashville school system.
That is an all-hands-on-deck emergency, and, we need to make sure that we're doing absolutely everything we can to keep our kids safe. This is where you and I are going to differ.
Are we?
No.
In the Metro Nashville school system?
No, we're not doing everything we can to keep our kids safe, and the state precludes us from doing that.
How so?
Because we need, and the governor and this is why the governor has called a special session, everything is not all one side or the other. We actually need just some common sense gun regulations. Most gun owners agree that some common sense gun regulations would make a big difference.
I'll make a deal with you. I'll talk to you about common sense gun regulations, and you talk to me about SROs in elementary schools.
Yeah, I mean, those are two different approaches. We have SROs in elementary schools, and I'm not saying that
not in Metro Nashville.
Well, in some we do, and let me just say,
Why do you think Metro Nashville is turning down the $5 million to fund the 70 positions that it would take to put SROs in every elementary school?
We can't militarize our schools. I mean, militarizing our schools is not the answer. We have to actually.
So you're willing to put kids at risk?
No, I am not willing.
Wait a minute. Since when is a police officer militarizing the school? Why does everyone look at police officers in police uniforms as a negative for children? Children should be looking up to police officers, and everyone that I talk to about this issue seems to believe that it's perfectly acceptable for a young child to grow up believing a police officer is bad. And if that's what's happening in Davidson County, I want a mayor that's going to fight to change that perception.
I agree with you 100% there. We need to build more trust with our police. I think one of the things we need to do is get our police more on the streets and in our communities, because police are being vilified. And also, we can't expect our police to solve all the problems. I mean, they're being expected to do an unreasonable amount of work.
Agreed.
And in areas where they're not even trained, So we need to give them social work support, violence intervention support, domestic support, so that they can actually do their job, which is to deal with extreme emergency situations and, situations that require their skills. So I do think that we absolutely need to humanize our police. I agree with you on that. That having been said, I mean, you can't, it's just a matter of logic that when you have people with guns and more people with guns, you're not going to be able to police your way out of that. We need to have some kinds of regulations on the people who are allowed to get a hold of guns, people with severe mental illness, people who are going to use them to hurt people.
Well, I want to talk about that in a moment, but I want to just readdress the point that the situation is so serious that we want to have a conversation about curtailing constitutional rights. That's fine. I'm willing to have that conversation. But the situation is not serious enough to put a police officer in an elementary school.
Well, I'll tell you, the first time that we voted on that, I voted against it because I didn't want to militarize our schools. This last time when we voted for it, I voted for it because it's an emergency. So I understand what you're saying, but that is not the solution.
Are you appreciative of the governor's call for a special session? A lot of conservative Republicans are against this and and I know this is kind of away from the role of campaigning for mayor, but it's important. It'll happen in about a month from now, we're told, that we will be in special session. What do you think can be accomplished with a Republican-dominated General Assembly?
It'll be interesting. I know that some of my colleagues in the Senate would like to see some common sense gun regulations passed. That having been said, I know that the Tennessee Firearms Association and a lot of people in the House are not at all interested in that. So the governor very much is, and initially wanted, some kind of an ERPO or a red flag law. But that having been said, there's a real battle going on in the controlling party.
But my take on this has been a fairly simple one, as most of mine are, that if someone is experiencing signs and symptoms as identified by professionals of mental duress to the point that we're willing to take one of their rights away, why wouldn't we be willing to take all of their rights away on a temporary basis to ascertain what level of threat they are to themselves or to their community? Meaning, temporarily getting them some sort of medical assistance at a facility and invest in that. I think we lose sight of the fact that those that are a danger to others will remain a danger to others even if they are separated from guns. You're not changing that mental disposition.
Well, yeah, I say over and over again, it doesn't matter what's in your head or your heart. What matters is what's in your hand. So, at the time,
I completely and totally disagree with that. I mean, I think
I mean, it's so true that if you are somebody who is losing it and wants to go in and shoot up a school and you have a gun, it's a lot easier to do than if you don't have a gun.
Well, but you're denying that good people can have guns too.
No.
I mean, you deny the presence of the police officers that stopped Covenant from being far worse than it was. I mean, because what was in their head and their heart mattered at the time that they engaged the
100%.
shooter.
I'm saying, oh yes. Please don't assume that I'm saying that everybody, it doesn't matter what's in their head and their heart. I'm saying that at the time that somebody is doing something like that, some horrible, heinous thing like that,
They can do less damage with a rock than with a gun.
that's right.
Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying.
Well, I mean, but the last I checked, we do not have a constitutional right to keep and bear rocks.
That's a long conversation.
I mean, it's tricky, but I mean, so I mean, can there be? I mean, and the $1 million question then becomes, and I know I circle back to it, and I ask it even though I don't think there's an answer today. But is there common ground when we're getting the legislature back together during a summer session? Is there an ability to find common ground? I would think that it would be difficult for a Democrat to believe that, except for the governor supporting this in the way that he seems to support.
Well, and you also see that they did that in Florida, and Florida is very similar politically, and it made a difference. So, you know who asks us over and over again to pass common sense gun legislation? The police. They did not want us to pass open carry. They came up and asked us not to do that. They did not want people to be able to get guns out of cars because that's the main way people are getting guns. It is now, and I know you're probably going to disagree with me on
It's all
that,
good.
the number one cause of death for children is guns. It's a problem. It's
The
a
number
problem.
one cause of death for children is as
It's guns in
defined.
this state.
As defined, I mean, are you're including the 18 and 19 year olds in that? I've seen this study, and you have to include the 18 and 19 year olds, which last I checked, they're not kids. But if you include those
I think
teenage
they kind of
years,
act like kids.
well, I mean, if you include those, yes, and we will agree to disagree. And once again, my purpose for having, and I have to repeat this, I love the engagement. I love giving you an opportunity to platform and to present your views to the listening audience, some of whom will be going out and voting. Maybe they've already voted, but we particularly want to speak to those people that are preparing to vote.
Well, one thing I'll tell you is the mayor of Nashville doesn't have a big impact on that particular issue. So, if you're looking for somebody who is actually going to be able to address transit, affordability, education, I would add trash. I think trash is actually a big problem.
Can I say, not to interrupt you there, I mean, does it feel like it's getting a little dirtier?
Yes.
I mean, I've been here a short amount of time. You've been here all your life. I just feel like it's getting a little dirtier.
The mom and me, the first thing I want to do is clean up this city. It just feels down at heel. People feel bummed out. There's trash everywhere. Potholes, our infrastructure is falling apart. We actually have money from the state to do that right now, and we need to do it yesterday.
And I should have addressed this much sooner in the few moments that we have left. I mean, you talk about trash and then the concept of crime, more broadly crime away from the school systems, and how to address what is a shortfall in our police department. I mean, is there an easy fix on that?
A mayor's number one job is to keep the public safe, and we have real public safety challenges right now. We need to actually increase our police force. We need to make sure that they have the equipment that they need. We need to support them by actually not expecting them to do jobs that they are not trained to do. And we need to invest in smart city technology, which actually is one of the things that will improve efficiency and public safety more so than anything else.
Heidi, you say that, and it begs the question: what jobs are police officers doing that they're not supposed to be doing?
Domestic, they deal with everything. They deal with domestic disputes. They deal
who's gonna deal with that?
We have, people in social work positions. We have violence interrupters. We have all kinds of people who could actually take on that work, and give our police the freedom to be able to do their job.
What's the final message that you send to the listening audience?
So I'm the only one in this race that has been a mayor before and served on the Greater Nashville Regional Mayor's Council. I've been serving our city in one capacity or another for a decade now. I have always put Nashvillians first. I believe that the job of the mayor is to make the world a better place for the people we serve. That's my promise to you, and I ask you for your vote.
There's Heidi Campbell, everybody, serving as a state senator, and she wants to be the next mayor of Nashville. Thank you for stopping by.
Thank you. I always love talking to you.
We'll be back in a moment. Another hour to go after this one is complete. It's 52 after the hour on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. All right, 2 locations to serve, and they've been serving for decades. I'm talking about the Tennessee Men's Clinic. When Tennessee Men's Clinic came to me and asked me if I would talk about what they do, they indicated that some were hesitant in discussing these issues, and I get it. I mean, it's personal. I understand that. And guys, I know how you are because I'm one of you. You don't want to talk about anything that has to do with bedroom activity, but that's a lot of what they deal with at Tennessee Men's Clinic. But there's no shame in that game. For about half of men, they have to deal with some form of issue in that regard. Do you know that you're getting the best advice? Do you know that you have your numbers right? You know what? One of the things Tennessee Men's Clinic does, first and foremost, they sit down with you. They talk with you about energy levels. They talk to you about T levels and other things that they can identify through a little bit of blood work. And then they get some results back, and then they can develop an action plan. Maybe it's just that you're not getting the proper amount of sleep. Or maybe it's something a little more deep-seated. 2 locations to serve you, and they're taking appointments right now at the Tennessee Men's Clinic. One is in Midtown. The other's in Franklin, TennesseeMen'sClinic.com, or call them, 615-208-9090, 208-9090.
2 o'clock, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Right now, 91 degrees on Music Row, and that sun's still hanging with us from over the weekend. A slight chance of thunderstorms later on today, but overall, looks like it'll be a sunny week. Complete forecast just a few minutes away. Still no word from North Korea on the status of Travis King, the Army private who early last week ran across the demilitarized zone from South Korea. At today's State Department briefing, spokesperson Matthew Miller saying he's not aware of any communication from the DPRK since an early acknowledgement of King's arrival in the country.
We have a number of channels through which we're able to send messages to them. We've delivered the messages to North Korea, but we have as yet not received a response.
Some crime here in Tennessee. News 2 reports that a 19-year-old man is now in jail after robbing a woman at gunpoint outside of a restaurant in Goodlettsville. DeMonte McKinney demanded that the woman leave her vehicle. He and another woman that accompanied him then stole the car. A police chase down I-65 South ensued until McKinney started to run away on foot. McKinney tried to hide his gun behind a retaining wall while running away. Police then took him into custody. And the Biden administration has set a deadline today for Texas to remove the floating border barrier that is placed in the Rio Grande at Eagle Pass.
The Mexican government plans to send a team of inspectors up to the Rio Grande for a first-hand look at the 1,000-foot string of buoys intended to keep people from entering the U.S. illegally. Mexico has suggested that the device violates a 70-year-old treaty between the two countries.
And that's Jim Ryan in Dallas. And the state also feeling pressure from Mexico to dismantle the buoys. In Middle Tennessee, a man charged with sexual exploitation of a minor was formerly in an authoritative role at Full Count Ministries in Hendersonville. 40-year-old Jacob R. Oldham has since been terminated from the board. Oldham serves as the executive director for Full County Ministries, which uses baseball as an outlet for its preaching. And that is the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Ladies and gentlemen, Efficient Heating and Cooling is simply the best that I have found in the Nashville area, and I am proud to be able to tell you about them. Jeff Eddy is the man. I love a couple of aspects of the way he does business. One, Jeff does not desire to be the biggest company in the world. He doesn't just buy new trucks and hire new individuals without completely vetting them for no reason. He wants to be trustworthy as the day is long and wants to be there for you as a public service. Efficient Heating and Cooling is a small company with big results and big service in their hearts. If you're trying to make a decision, for example, about whether to replace or repair, most of the big boy shops are going to tell you to replace every time. They make more money that way. Jeff Eddy doesn't do this. He never charges you overtime for evenings or weekend rates. The rates are the same, regardless of what time the AC has a problem. He never charges you over $125 for a maintenance call, no matter how many units you might have, and oftentimes it's considerably less. A flat fee is important on those maintenance calls, and they provide it at Efficient Heating and Cooling. Plus, they offer free financing on the next unit when the time comes. A diamond contractor with Mitsubishi Electric, an elite pro partner with Rheem. Efficient HVAC efficienthvac.net. That's efficienthvac.net, or call today, 615-784-4424, 784-4424 for efficient heating and cooling. Here we go. Hour number 3 of the Matt Murphy Show in progress right now. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I love being able to speak with you on a regular basis. I love what we do. It's episode 383 of the Matt Murphy radio portion of the broadcast day. We'll hand off to The Drive. Brian Wilson back in the house. That's coming up at 3 o'clock this afternoon, and I'm certain that he will fill you in on everything that's going on a busy news day on a Monday. By the way, we are aware, I know several of you have reached out via the Super Text line. If you're watching on Super Talk TV, and thank you to the gang at F&M Bank, the F&M Bank chat line up and running. You can comment and opine on said chat line as you watch on Super Talk TV, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. You will not see Bel Kaeh there, which is why we refer to him as Headless Bell. You can hear him there, but you will not see him there. However, for several minutes, you were not able to hear any of us on our terrestrial radio signal. And I blame Mac Morey. He was doing his newscast. Yeah, I mean,
that makes sense.
Is that not fair?
No, absolutely.
Everything was running smoothly. You get back in the house after a little light lunch, get back into the news groove, and then boom.
Just done.
What's up, Maury? I haven't talked to you in a minute.
What's going on?
What's happening?
Doing great.
Happy
Monday.
Did you get some cookies?
I did. Yeah, I had one at my light lunch.
Any good?
Great. Really good. I mean, Erica, come
golly mo.
Everything she makes, I'm so excited
I
love good.
I love her dearly, but she's I mean, it's a thing. I mean, she loves to bake. She enjoys doing that. And for me, it's just a matter of facilitating getting them from the kitchen to my coworkers without eating them all.
Without them entering your belly.
Right. Or
all.
eating any of them because I'm trying to lose a couple of pounds. It's the ever-present conundrum in my life. Belle, have you had a cookie? You might as well.
No.
I mean, you had the tequila-fueled week of drunkenness in Dallas, and why not?
Yeah, it was, I was on vacation, and I had fun on vacation. I'm back to work, and we're back on the plan.
Mac, you want to admit, do you want us to, should we pull the curtain back to something I said? It's so mean. It's so mean what I said.
Please do it. Please.
It's so mean.
I was thinking about doing it, so I'm glad you are.
So for those newbies in the audience, you might not realize that months ago, I mean, a year ago maybe. When did you start your weight loss, Belle? Was it like January?
Yeah, it was January.
So January. There was January there.
Yeah.
So Belle and I say, hey, let's have a friendly competition. Let's each lose weight.
Let's get in shape. Come on.
Hey, let's do it. New year, new us. Let's do this thing. And we're both gung-ho about it. And Bel Kaeh goes off to the races and just he's losing weight. Boom. And so and it's all about who can get to their goal first. Who can get to their goal first? That was the Bel Kaeh Matt Murphy challenge, correct, Belle?
Yeah.
Who can get to the goal first? And you have been like 2.5 pounds from your goal?
No. Before I left on vacation, I hit it 210.
No, wait a minute. Hold on a sec. I haven't heard anything about this.
This spoils my plan.
Whoa.
So it's an issue for you that I didn't break my vacation to tell you about my weight. I got better things to do than talk to you about my weight when I'm on vacation.
I don't believe you. I don't believe you.
That changes nothing. That changes literally nothing.
You told me in the hallway a little while ago that the scale claimed that you had gained like 12 pounds or something.
I said I hit it before I went on vacation.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
And how nice was I? What did I respond? What did I say, Belle?
You're disgusting and fat.
I did. That's not what I said. I said it's probably because you've consumed alcohol for the first time in a while. Your body's holding on to water.
That's probably true.
And that's probably the big, you probably got, 6-8 pounds of water you're holding on to in there somewhere. Well, this changes the whole thing. I don't want to talk to you anymore about it.
I forgot to tell you
didn't tell anybody.
When I was going to the airport to catch my flight yesterday, I'm at the gate, and all of a sudden I hear, Bell, Bell. And I turn around, and Pamela First sitting there.
Oh, that's so funny.
In Dallas?
In
In
Dallas.
Dallas.
That's great.
She had gone to Vegas to do some work with Americans for Prosperity, and she was flying back. She was on the same flight I was.
That's pretty cool.
It was funny.
Was she up there in first class? You're back there in coach?
No, I was actually up in first class. She was in coach.
How do you were in first class?
No, I was next to it,
You're
though.
a liar.
Yeah, there we
You
go.
know, yeah,
there it is.
We call that first class adjacent.
Yes.
Which really is, you know what? First class, if I may, when you guys first got on an airplane, I expected first class to be a little something more.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess maybe it used to be a little something more. I mean, I understand the seats are bigger and I understand the drinks are free. I get that. But they never pull that curtain.
No. It's not that
To
private.
me, back when I did fly first class a lot, to me, the benefits of it were first on the plane, first to get settled, always room for your luggage.
Yeah.
Then when that tube lands, you are the first person off.
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I dig that. I don't mind that. Although being in the front of the plane presents its own danger because, if that thing goes down, you're the first to die.
I would rather be sitting close to the pilot because he's going to do his best to make sure his part of the plane takes the least damage.
No, statistically, you're much better off in the back of the plane.
That is true, yes.
That's what I'm talking. But, is life really worth living if you're back there with all the coach plebes?
Right.
No, I'm a coach guy through and through. I cannot.
Same.
I have a difficult time pulling the trigger. Every once in a while, I'll go business class, and I feel like I'm really doing something big. But business class is just for schmucks like me that won't pull the trigger on first class, but want to feel like you're doing something with your life.
Half in it.
You're half pregnant in business.
Well, and also with those seats in first class being bigger, I'm 6'1". Not having the leg room, it kills me. I hate flying without leg room.
See, I'm good. I'm good there.
What's the longest flight you guys have taken?
I flew to Munich one time.
Oh, that's pretty long.
Whew.
That's going to be a biggie. Was that like a music deal?
Yeah. The flight.
Take you out to some of those sex clubs in Germany? Yeah, I get that.
Actually, yes. What? It was. I think it was 6.
I just make it up, and he confirms it's real.
Exactly.
Right?
I think it was. I flew to Maui. I think that was like 6.5 hours
From L.A.
No, from Dallas.
I did the New York to Amsterdam deal. That was about 6.5, 7 hours. That's as much as I've done.
It's a long time.
It's a long time to be. But you know what? It's not nearly as bad if you pop a Valium right as you get on the plane. I'm not recommending it. I'm just
not saying he ever did it.
I'm not saying. I'm just reporting the news. I'm just as I saw it. I went to sleep, drooled all over myself, and woke up and they said, "We'll be in Amsterdam in about 15 minutes." Hey, this was easy.
That's the opinion driven folks.
Anyway, the plan here's the point. I said to Mac, before you started lying on a 100,000 watt radio station and claiming that you actually hit your goal weight, I said, you know how Bell got to like 1.5 pounds of his goal right before he went on vacation? I said, I just want him to pound the food and pound the tequila on vacation. I said, it gives me a shot. It gives me a little bit of hope that I can at least make it a little closer because now I'm actually losing weight.
Tortoise in the hair.
Tortoise in the hair.
Tortoise in the hair.
Bel Kaeh gets to almost the finish line to say, I'm going to take a nap. No big deal. Tequila, maybe a few fried things. And then before you know it, Murphy slips in there.
210 last Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
Murphy's like the evil character in the animated film. His plan's have been foiled.
Yeah, I know where he lives, and for some reason I feel like Bell sleeps hard. And I feel like I could slip some of Erica's cookies in his mouth while he's in bed, while he's asleep.
Yeah, I sleep very hard. Plus, I
go.
sleep with earplugs and a sleep mask. So,
this would be so easy. You wake up and there's like 14 cookies in your mouth,
or the remnants of 14 cookies.
I'm
having dreams about cake.
I've got an IV set up. It's like Misery with Matt Murphy and Bel Kaeh.
Glucose IV.
Yeah, I'm pumping in like fat directly into your veins. I'm competitive, but not that competitive. All right, so we've got some new developments in the Hunter Biden, Joe Biden saga we want to tell you about. By the way, anyone wanting to comment on, we're off the radio again. So there you go. So if you, right now, by the way,
I'm getting external signal.
Oh, we are?
Yeah.
3641 said dead air again. Of course, that was a minute ago.
Seeing the signal.
Okay. Well, obviously they're working on something. Last week, for those who can still hear me, if you're listening on radio, we're currently off air. I always like to say that. For those that can still hear, we had a major electrical issue due to the storms that came through last week, which bopped our phones, which did a lot of bad things. And we've cobbled everything together with spit and baling wire. Pamela says it's back again. So thank you, Pamela Furr. I appreciate you. How shocked was Pamela Furr to see you in the airport, Belle? Did she seem genuinely excited?
Oh, she was surprised.
Yeah. She's a good actress, that Pamela Furr. Yeah. That's a joke.
And then when I was on the plane and sitting up in 10C, and she was all the way in the back, and she told me that I sucked as she was walking by.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Well, if you can hear it, we had a pretty big electrical issue, and no doubt on this Monday, there's some work being done on the signal. So if you're not getting the same good quality signal that you're normally accustomed to with 100,000 watts of blowtorch power, that is why. But trust me, and I assure you, we are here. We remain streaming on the various streaming platforms. And obviously, you can slip over to SuperTalk TV and enjoy us in that way. Go to YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. Just type in SuperTalk 99.7 WTN, and there you go. By the way, big announcement while I'm doing announcements. We had to shift the date of our get-together. And so for those who've already purchased tickets to the J Street Korean Grill and Bar, never you fear, we've got those on the way. The new time, new date, August 15th. So enjoy Dan Mandis, Matt Murphy, Brian Wilson, Pamela Furr, the brand new 9 to Noon host Chris Hand, Johnny B, amongst others, for an evening with WTN, August 15th. At J Street Korean Grill and Bar in Hendersonville. It starts at 6, although Brian will be there prior to that, offering up his show until 6 o'clock, and there's an entire station takeover. Enjoy the all-you-can-eat dining experience, offering a wide variety of high-quality meats, veggies. Customers can grill it at their own table. Each ticket also includes an adult beverage of your choosing. Break bread with us. Purchase tickets today at 997WTN.com. That's 997 WTN.com. It is a brand new date. We had to shift dates for reasons unknown to me, but just want to make you aware. Everyone will be honored that had previously purchased tickets. We apologize for the shift, but it was, I believe, out of our hands, out of our control. So get tickets at 997WTN.com. Investigators have now, according to James Comer, the House Oversight Committee chairman, he has said in an interview this past week that congressional investigators have now obtained financial records that show direct transactions between the Biden crime family and, wait for it, Russia. We already knew about the Ukrainian accusations that have been verified by multiple separate sources that Joe Biden and his son Hunter shook down the Burisma Corporation to the tune of $10 million for his role in firing a prosecutor that was looking into Burisma. Burisma was very desirous to get into the American markets, and while under investigation, there was no possibility of that happening. Well, this is different. That shakedown notwithstanding the belief that there was a shakedown of certain entities within China as well, and there's investigators on top of that story too. Now, House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer making remarks in an interview this week with Ted Cruz on the Verdict podcast said, well, one of the individuals, talk show host Ben Ferguson, who's a great guy. Ben is out of Memphis, if I'm not mistaken. I've known Ben for some years. Ben said, I want to know what countries so far you can name for sure. There's one country that hasn't been talked about, and that's Russia. To which Comer said, stay tuned. Ted Cruz interjected, stay tuned. You want to break news, but this is a podcast. You gotta show a little leg here, James. Comer responded, we have more bank records than we've received. We're working on a third memorandum. They show transactions from Russia and Ukraine.
You're a damn liar, man. That's not true.
How deep does this go? Is there anyone that doesn't believe that there was malfeasance afoot while Biden was vice president of the United States? Meantime, photos from the now infamous Hunter Biden laptop from hell show that he was at then Vice President Joe Biden's house in Delaware the same day of his alleged shakedown message to the Chinese business partner. Remember this message? We told you about it several weeks ago. President Joe Biden recently shouted at a New York Post reporter when he was asked if he was with his son during the alleged WhatsApp discussion with Henry Zhao, CEO of a Chinese asset management firm, Harvest Fund Management, on July 30th, 2017. It was on that day that he sent the WhatsApp discussion. I'll tell you what that said in just a moment. When Biden was asked recently if he was with Hunter during the digital discussion, the president laughed at the question before yelling, "No!" During the July 30th, 2017 discussion, Hunter Biden told Zhao, "I am sitting here with my father, and we would like to understand why the commitment has not been fulfilled. And Z, if I get a call or text from anyone involved in this other than you, Zhang, or the chairman, I will make certain that between the man sitting next to me and every person he knows and my ability to forever hold a grudge, that you will regret not following my direction." I just want to pause and recognize how much the mainstream media ignores this. Can you believe this? If I get he's talking to a business owner. If I get a call or a text from anybody else but you or Zhang or the chairman, the guy sitting next to me, the big guy, Joe Biden, and every person he knows, the president of the United States and others, and my ability to hold a grudge, you will regret not following my direction. It's a damn shakedown. And the media ignores it. Well, we now know that photos on Hunter Biden's abandoned laptop taken on July 30th, 2017, the very same day that he sent the threatening message, show Hunter Biden posing in the driver's seat of his father's 1967 Corvette Stingray with two girls in bikinis. Two girls in bikinis. During a recent exchange with the New York Post, Joe Biden was asked specifically whether he was sitting there with his son. "No, I wasn't. Were you?" "No," he said. You want to hear it? I got it right here for you. Let's just give it a listen.
President Biden, how involved were you in your son's Chinese shakedown text message? Were you sitting there? Were you involved?
No, I wasn't.
Were you?
No.
So he was at your house. He sent the message from your house, but you are expecting us to believe that you weren't there.
Have you ever noticed how when he gets challenged on something that he's done wrong, he gets very angry?
Mm-hmm.
Like when he got busted for his plagiarism and his lies about his law degree.
Oh, and he went after the reporter saying he had a bigger IQ than him?
Yeah, it's just like he devolves into insults because he knows he's been busted.
And he thinks that he can push his way out of it.
Right. He can bully his way back out of trouble.
And he's done that all of his career. He used to do it a little bit better, at least. Now it just comes off as grumpy old man-ish. I've got an important exchange that we need to remember between Joe Biden and a constituent. And I'll air that with you in just a moment. It's 23 after the hour. Your calls as well, or super text 615-737-9986. How do you think Heidi Campbell did?
And in what regard?
How do you think she did? I'm asking the audience.
Oh, I thought you were looking at me, and I'm thinking, why are you asking me?
Well, I'll ask you too in a moment. It's 23 after the hour on Super Talk. The Dr. Gill Center for Back, Neck, and Chronic Pain Relief, located in Franklin, worth the short drive from anywhere within the sound of my voice. Friends, it's Matt Murphy, and here's the deal. I have lower back pain. Sometimes it flares up a little bit, but I know where to go when that happens. But for the most part, I have been pain-free since going to the Dr. Gill Center and getting some decompression therapy. They have the latest and most modern techniques that can help assist you when it comes to decompressing what is a compression, which is causing pain and torment in so many people. Go ask Dr. Wendy, Dr. V, Dr. D, or the rest of the gang at the Dr. Gill Center for Back, Neck, and Chronic Pain Relief how they can assist you. They've been doing so for a long time to people just like you, and it's time that you received relief without the need for pain pills and without the consideration for surgery. So regardless of where your pain is, I want you to call the Dr. Gill Center. The telephone number is 615-882-4838, 882-4838. The Dr. Gill Center for Back, Neck, and Chronic Pain Relief in Franklin. Tell them Matt Murphy sent you.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. Have you ever thought about why we invest in the stock market? Well, you often hear because we want to protect ourselves from inflation. Well, what is inflation? It's prices going up. Who's raising prices? Companies. What do you own when you own stocks? You own the companies raising prices, so it helps protect us from that. The other thing is this. Think about the most successful people you know. They're typically business owners. And you get to be a business owner when you invest in the stock market. Now, if we think about the stock market, a lot of people worry about, well, what if the stock market drops and it never comes back? Well, this is another thing that I like to explain to people. If the stock market goes down and it never comes back, what does that mean? That means that earnings went down and they never came back up again. So earnings went down. If earnings go down, what else goes down? Taxes go down. If taxes go away, what else goes away? The government goes away. If the government goes away, the FDIC goes away. So think about it. Everything is built on the stock market. That's why I don't ever worry about the stock market going down. Everybody has the same goal in mind when stocks go down. Get it to come back up because we got to get earnings to come back up. Now, you have two things at your control to get earnings to come back up. One is sales. We can change what we're selling or sell more of whatever we have if we can. And if we can't do that, we can reduce our expenses. And that's exactly what companies do. You'll notice that they lay off people when things get bad, and hence that is why the stock market has recovered from every downturn throughout all of history. Now, if you want to learn more about our approach to investing in financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call or call 615-851-1950.
The White House responding to Russia's withdrawal from the grain deal, some violence in Tennessee, plus some suspects in California, one of which a Marine. What was the crime? We'll find out. 2:30 Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It's called a professional tease, ladies and gentlemen. Don't try that at home. There's Mac Morey from the newsroom. Matt Murphy in studio. 227 Super Talk 99.7 WTN. We're aware that there have been some blips with the terrestrial signal, correcting some issues that went down last week during a lot of the storms that moved through our area. Speaking of moving through, the drive will move through from 3 until 7 this afternoon with Brian and Wilson. We're a part of Live and Local Conversation on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Here's a little flashback to 2019. Bel Kaeh mentioned it, how Joe Biden gets his grumpy pants on when people actually challenge him. So RNC Research put this out. It's important to remember how far we've come from just a few years ago when Joe Biden steadfastly denied ever having any conversation with his son about any business dealing whatsoever. Listen, it's a little bit difficult to hear the voter, but this is in a little town hall that they were engaged in there's probably 30, 40 people in the room. And Joe Biden absolutely freaks out on a gentleman, a farmer, who asks about his family's corruption. Legit question. And a very telling answer, especially 4 years later.
But you, on the other hand, sent your son over there, get a job and work for a gas company that he had no experience in that, so nothing. In order to get access to the public, to the president. So you're selling access to the president just like he is. So you got a damn liar, man.
All right, so he's saying his son had access to these foreign entities and got money from these foreign entities, and Joe Biden gave the now infamous quote, "You're a damn liar, man."
So you're a damn liar, man. That's not true. And no one has ever said that? No one has heard that?
I see it on the TV.
You see it on the TV. No, I know you do. And by the way, that's why I'm not sedentary. I get up and no, let him go. Let him go. Look, the reason I'm running is because I've been around a long time and I know more than most people know. And I can get things done. That's why I'm running. And you want to check my shape on it, let's do push-ups together here, man.
He challenges a voter to push-ups. You want to check what shape I'm in? Let's do some. And that here comes the IQ test. This is an old go-to for Biden. When someone challenges Biden and gets a little too close to the truth, we had the flashback last week from the late, I guess it was during his run for president of the United States, when a reporter challenged him on what he claimed were his educational bona fides. And Joe, I'll take an IQ test with you any day. He loves the IQ test.
If you want to check my shape on it, let's do push-ups together here, man. Let's run. Let's do whatever you want to do. Let's take an IQ test. Number two. No one has said my son has done anything wrong, and I did not on any occasion. And no one has ever said it. Not
I
one.
didn't say you were doing anything wrong.
You said I set up my son to work in an oil company.
He did. Can someone find this human being and congratulate him for challenging so many years ago? Listen to this liar, how defiant
No
he
one
is.
has ever said it. Not
I didn't
one.
say you were doing anything wrong.
You said I set up my son to work in an oil company. Isn't that what you said? Get your words straight, Jack.
I mean, listen to this magnanimous.
Want to see my temper? Keep going.
You said I set my son up with an oil company. Get your facts right, Jack. Let me pull a little Joe Biden here. He did set his son up with an oil company. It's called Burisma. He did it. Let's say the quiet part out loud. 2:31, time for news. Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.232, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories right now. 92 degrees in Nashville. Expected to stay hot and sunny all week with only a blip or two of storms. One of those may come this afternoon into evening. Full weather forecast in just about 2 minutes. The United States, quote, strongly condemns Russia's withdrawal last week from the Black Sea Grain Initiative. The year-old deal enabled Ukraine to export globally sunflower, oil, wheat, and other crops, providing food for much of the EU and other nations. U.S. State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller today saying the poorest people are the ones who will suffer most.
These vicious strikes further illustrate Russia's willingness to use food as a weapon in its illegal war against Ukraine. The Kremlin wants to deprive Ukraine's economy of a major source of income without regard for needy people across the globe who will feel the consequences and be forced to pay higher prices for food.
Right now in Nashville, one person was shot outside of a 7-Eleven on Nolensville Pike at 1:30 a.m. this morning. The victim is a 21-year-old man and was shot somewhere else, then brought to that gas station. Police are now investigating the crime and looking for the suspect. And charges have been filed against 3 suspects, including an active duty Marine accused of carrying out a firebombing of a California Planned Parenthood clinic. Alex Stone reports from Southern California.
The 3 men, including Camp Pendleton active duty Marine Chance Brannon, are accused of plotting the firebombing at a Planned Parenthood clinic in Orange County, assembling Molotov cocktails and then carrying out their attack in early 2022. Charges include conspiracy. Prosecutors allege the attack was targeted toward Planned Parenthood.
There are strong indications of animus towards women with regard to the 3 defendants.
The attack did only minor damage and the fire was put out by firefighters. Nobody was injured. If convicted, the men could get decades in federal prison.
And that is the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy, and I've been telling you for a while about an opportunity for you artists, singers out there to make a name for yourself and make a splash in Music City. It's all a part of Stokes Nielsen's desire to look for a Tennessee artist that wants to be a part of an incredible recorded version of a song that he has written. It's called the Strength of America Song Project. He's looking for you, and he knows how extensive the WTN audience is. And we met at our offices here off of Music Row, and Stokes said, I want you, Murphy, to tell people that this is a monumental opportunity to get on the radar in Nashville, Tennessee. He wants a local Tennessee artist to sing this song. The info is available for you. It's called the Strength of America Song Project. I'm going to give you an email for you to email Stokes directly. He has written the song. He performed the song at the Women's Military Memorial at Arlington National Cemetery. He did so as a part of Women Veterans Recognition Day and the 75th anniversary of the Women's Armed Services Integration Act. Now it's time to get it recorded. He wants you to help him lay it down. Do you have the voice for it? Do you have the talent for it? Are you ready for that big break? This is it. strengthofamerica@gmail.com. Send Stokes a message. Tell him you heard about him on the Matt Murphy Show. strengthofamerica@gmail.com. Reaction to our Heidi Campbell interview coming in on the super text line, 615-737-9986. It's not pretty over there. It's just not pretty.
Yeah, but I like you. I disagree with her probably on the vast majority of political issues, but she's still a sweet lady.
Yeah. I mean, I like Heidi as a person. Her politics are awful. And in a lot of ways, I just could not disagree with her more. But the purpose here is to present these individuals to those of you who are planning to vote in Davidson County and allow you the opportunity to find the person that best represents your values and views. Obviously, most of you are not appreciative of some of her answers, nor was I, with regard particularly to SROs in elementary schools and the idea of gun confiscation. Scott writes in and says Heidi is a gun grabber. I don't know that that's not the case. That's a double negative, proof positive that I agree with you, Scott. 3267 says, not a fan of Heidi. I like the other lady that was on last week or the week before. If not her, Natisha Brooks. I think you're referring to Alice Rowley. Although Heidi talking about the train tracks should be explored more sounds like a decent suggestion. 7830 says she bled liberalness and ducked the heavy topics with talking points. That was Bob. 4862 said Heidi lost me with the militarization verbiage. What a word that I can't say on the radio. Not so good, said 4060. Not so good. And then 1385 says, I'm tired of hearing about this bleep. They don't do anything. I don't know if that bleep was referring to Heidi or not, but there you go. It is.
And people should at least respect her and Freddie O'Connell for having the fortitude and come defend their position in the Lions' Den.
Well, I mean, I appreciate the fact that they know that our audience leans conservative, and it's probably not really close to the center line in terms of conservatism or libertarianism versus a liberal mindset. They are liberals, and they're willing to come here in an effort to speak to conservatives in an open format. I do have an appreciation for that, even if I don't have an appreciation for their positions on these issues. I don't, for the life of me, do not understand what is so hard about taking a position on the racetrack. I guess maybe I understand it in as much as perhaps your political base, if you're a part of the political left, your base doesn't like the idea of the racetrack, and because of that, you don't want to answer what is an obvious question and an obvious answer. This will cost the city no money. It will save something that the citizens of this community said with over 70% of the vote that they wanted to save just several years ago. Yet you're non-committal. You're either non-committal for one reason or another. Either you don't appreciate what the racetrack has meant to the community and don't recognize its importance to many parts of the community, or you're beholden to John Ingram's desire to turn it into a parking lot. John Ingram, you have an open invitation to explain to me how I'm wrong, that it is not your goal to use your money to convince enough Metro councilors to vote against this so you can get that property and turn it into a parking lot. Tell me I'm wrong. Matt, how dare you? How can you say that? Because it's true. That's how I can say it. He knows what he wants to do. He was given free property to build the stadium. The only way that he could make that cost effective was to put condominiums up there, which he has done. And those condominiums were on a space that was potentially designed for parking, which is non-existent in and around the soccer stadium. I'm not against the soccer stadium. I just want a little semblance of fairness here. John Ingram's against the racetrack because A, he wants a parking lot, and B, he doesn't want the competition. Competition in terms of a venue that can fit up to 30,000 people for concerts and the like. So that's where I'm at on all of that. In the meantime, did you see the movie that topped the box office over the weekend? You know, I have a difficult time getting my proverbial panties in a proverbial wad about any of this. What I'm hearing from a lot of my conservative friends is that Barbie is trash, despite the fact that it made $155 million over the weekend. This new movie has come out. It stars Ryan Gosling and Margot Robbie as Barbie and Gosling as Ken. And it's an adult-oriented treatment. An adult, not adult in that sense of an adult, but it's a grown-up storyline being told by live actors playing the children's toy. And a lot of you seem to be upset over the fact that they did not seize on the opportunity to bring, kids and parents together and that sort of thing and to make it a family experience. Well, I mean, that's not the movie that it claimed to be. It's, last I checked, it's PG-13. that being said, if you want a movie that's going to bring folks together like that, then let's go make our own. Let's go make our own film. I am interested. Weren't we going to see Oppenheimer together? Don't you still want to do that?
Yeah, but I found out it's 3 hours.
Well, yeah. I mean, they have bathrooms.
Greatness takes a little bit, man.
But they don't have pause buttons.
3 hours.
Yeah.
Of what I hear is just a thrill ride. It starts intense. I'm told by people who have seen the film, it starts intense. Actually, Bel, just get out of the way. Mac, do you want to go with me?
Let's do it. Seriously,
okay,
I'm trying to go. Come on.
I mean, I'm ready.
Yes.
I actually had tickets purchased briefly. I had them on hold at the IMAX over at Opry Mills.
Ooh.
I mean, 70 millimeters. That's the way that you should watch this film, I am told. But I went back to check on my tickets to confirm them and to pay for them. And then I realized that I was about to buy tickets closest to the screen. And,
that's not going to work in IMAX.
No, that's no good. So I had to hold off. So if you're around this weekend,
let's do it.
I'll buy the ticket if you
Sweet.
go. I think the wife is kind of wishy-washy on the whole experience. So if I have a buddy to go with me, maybe she'll say, you know what, just take me to Barbie at some point.
Maybe she can go see Barbie while you're in Oppenheimer.
There's a lot of this is weird. People are doing what is called the Barbenheimer experience.
Yeah,
have you heard about this?
Oh yes.
The Barbenheimer experience, they're going and they watch them as a double feature, Bel. There could be I don't know of two more different movies than Barbie and Oppenheimer.
So what is that, like 4.5 hours out of your day?
It's a lot, yeah.
Easy, yeah, easy. But I think you'd start with Oppenheimer, and then you'd end with Barbie, right? I wouldn't want to end with Oppenheimer.
Yeah, I need, but just based on the stylistic choices of the films, I feel like my brain will still be able to. I can't start with the fluff and then go to the hard stuff. I got to go to the hard stuff and then get to the fluff.
Palate cleanser, yeah.
Are you in on the Barbie film?
Yeah, I'll see it
in theaters, or will you wait?
Yeah, I'll probably wait. I mean,
I don't think
it a point.
Yeah,
you know
I don't think it depends on any of that.
Oppenheimer's one that I want to get to, like you said, 70 million, the way Christopher Nolan intended. I'd like to see it that way.
And I hear good. I hear good things. It's one of those that you want it to be good, and you're worried that it won't be, but you hear good things about how Nolan has treated the subject matter. So there's a little bit of
not only that,
news.
but if you just from looking at the trailers, it is exquisitely shot. I mean, the cinematography is amazing on it.
Well, and some of what they're doing, I'm told, I don't want to give up too much here, but Oppenheimer is going through some just mental, emotional hurdles in understanding how the world is going to change forever based on what he is doing.
Yeah.
He is not immune to understanding what the potential outcomes could be and ultimately what the outcomes were. And so
it's like he realizes he's opening Pandora's box.
Right. And so some of the visual effects are done from the spirit of he's envisioning and imagining, and then it builds up to the actual testing. I'm excited about seeing the whole thing.
Well, and part of it's in black and white and part of it's in color, and it's really well done.
That's what we hear. So we're all in on the Oppenheimer experience then?
Let's do it.
3 hours, Bel. Got to commit. Got to get in there and commit.
I might have to tinkle.
I mean, this radio show is 3 hours.
I saw.
Yeah, but I can get up and go to the bathroom a lot during the show.
Or just leave while I'm on the phone with somebody.
Right, exactly. When I go to get...
That's actually, by the way, for those that don't realize what happened, our phones are a little jacked due to the electrical that we've mentioned, and so I don't have any ability to control phones. So
Which normally you do.
Normally I do.
Decide when
I'm not blaming you on this, but normally I do. I decide when to cut people off, when to move on to another caller. So I go to a caller, John. Bel has to initiate that in the other room. And then I'm talking to John as I'm about to wrap up the conversation. I look up and Bel's gone. He's gone to get our next guest.
I had to go get Heidi.
And you don't know this, but while you were gone, I said to John, our conversation's pretty much over, but Bel's not there to cut you off. Do you have anything else? Anything else you want to say? You know, you got some shout outs. You want to talk to, Aunt Rosie and them?
I'm so sorry. I'm so used to you having all the necessary controls. And I hate leaving a guest waiting at the front door.
John, why would a grown man want to see, or John writes, Matt, why would a grown man want to see the Barbie movie Turn In Your Man card?
Well, there could be,
Two words.
dads taking their kids, their daughters.
What do you got, Maury?
2 words.
Yeah? I know what these words are going to be. They're good words. Why don't you go ahead and share these words?
Margot Robbie.
Margot Robbie. Margot Robbie. And, purient interest, John. I know I was several years younger than my sister. And my sister would play Barbie and Ken. She had the little blow-up furniture. She had the car. And I had a Superman and a Darth Vader. And Superman and Darth Vader, I was probably 7 or 8, would regularly wreck Ken's life and take Barbie. It was like a kidnapping scenario almost. And my sister would get very angry at me.
With good reason.
Because of these moments in my childhood, I happen to know that there are certain aspects of Barbie that are not anatomically accurate. And I'm wondering if they're carrying that over into the film. I think that's a natural question.
Well, I did see one scene in a trailer where Ken's like, I should come over and stay the night. And she's looking at him like, and do what? He's like, I have no idea.
Does it? Well, he did.
Yeah, he's like,
if you're going to do that. I mean, there's the one scene where, she's got the big old platform high heels on, and much like the actual Barbie, she steps out of the high heels and her feet stay the same.
Yeah.
They don't go flat on the ground. They're just like that. But John, in all seriousness, your point is correct. I don't know if it's a woke mess or not, and I will never find out because all said and done, I will never see the film. It's 51 after the hour. We'll wrap things up and hand off to the drive with Brian Wilson next. Hey, folks, Matt Murphy for Savory Spice. Oh, 2 locations to serve you, and so good and delicious. I've told you this over the last several weeks, but it bears repeating that Savory Spice can spice up it can make what might be considered a, quote, bland meal into something special. And here's what I mean. I'm on a weight loss journey, and I'm proud of the weight loss journey, and I'm proud of the fact that I've lost some good weight. But I could not have done it without Holly and David at Savory Spice, and I mean that because they provide the spices that spice up food that normally you'd think, well, it makes it interesting, it makes it mouth appealing, and that's what it's all about. So that literally I'm spicing up my food in order to lose weight. Now, if you're ready to up your food game, you up your food game by upping your spice game, and you up your spice game at Savory Spice. Holly and David have 2 fantastic locations. They've got spice blends that I've never heard of. They've got all the salts that you could possibly imagine. Just anything you need for the kitchen, they have it at Savory Spice. One location, L&L Market. That's over off Charlotte Pike. The other's right off the square in Franklin next to Gray's Pharmacy. Go in and tell them that Matt Murphy sent you to the one and only, the delicious Savory Spice.